Anne-Lauret's already given you a wonderful overview of the system of PQ, and I'm really going to just present a couple of slides. I'm going to be quite brief about our experience as a PQ lab. So we've already heard that the kind of overarching remit of PQ is to promote and facilitate access to safe and reliable kit in an equitable manner, and who wouldn't want that? And there are different elements to this, and one of the elements requires support of a laboratory. So, as mentioned, that's where we come in. So, if labs are interested in becoming PQ, and I'll talk about this in a minute or so, they express an interest. They are audited by WHO, and they're audited to ensure that they're compliant to the quality standards that they would need to uphold to be able to deliver the evaluation. There are, as Anne-Laure mentioned, 2 labs currently that are listed to be PQ for HPV tests. That's us in Edinburgh, and also the one in Pune in India. The audit happens, and there is a dry bit to the audit, and there's also a wet bit to the audit. So labs that are interested, when they put in their expression of interest, they submit documentation relating to their service, and then there's an on-site inspection of 2 or 3 days. WHO had their inspectors come and have a look at you in your lab, and then findings and any observations in relation to your lab processes are agreed, and any remedial actions are undertaken as they've arisen. So I really wanted to kind of talk about this in relation to challenges and opportunities, because that was the title of my talk. And one thing to say is that the inspection audit is comprehensive. So if you're a lab that's been doing HPV testing for some time and you have external accreditation already, that's not a fast track. As I say, it is a comprehensive inspection, so make sure that you have the time and staff to devote to this audit. And I would encourage labs that are interested in going for PQ to engage the support of their local quality managers, because having WHO status, if you like, as a PQ lab is wonderful, but it's not mandatory for a service laboratory, so you do need to engage your colleagues so they will agree that this is a good thing to do and support you through that process. In terms of the opportunity, yes, it is motivating and exciting for the lab when the audits happens and when you are listed as a lab, I would say. And like any audit, when things are found, it identifies areas for improvement, which is very good. As a personal experience as a laboratory, being engaged in PQ has opened the door to new collaborations with respect to partners that support with provision of quality material, with WHO themselves, with respect to sites that collect samples. So it is an opportunity for forging new collaborations as well. And so I would commend, without doing the hard sell here, labs that are interested in engaging in this process to submit their expressions of interest, because I do think it will provide resilience and flexibility for future evaluations for there to be more labs out there, particularly in these pretty uncertain times. So in terms of the assays that were evaluated and have been so far, we've talked about the Abbott, but there was also 2 that were actively evaluated, which were the CARE test and the KEFID test, which is just presented in this slide. So I don't want to go into too much detail about this, but the expert KEFID test is a cartridge-based test. It's internally controlled, and it's a modular system which can do rapid testing, not quite point of care, but rapid testing. The CARE HPV test is a little different. It's not individual units. It's works on a 96-well sort of classic batch type of testing system, and it doesn't have internal controls, but it has positive and negative calibrators, and they're both pretty low complexity assays. So the expert and CARE tests were evaluated according to the previous version of the protocol, and Laurie's already said that this is a work in progress to adapt this and change it. But the protocol, as was at the time, involved an assessment of analytical performance, which was largely confined to determining the limit of detection of the assays using the HV 16 and 18 international standards. And the virologic performance, as Anne-Laure put it, was performed by looking at the performance of the tests relative to a clinically validated test according to Maya, which was the Abbott at the time. So challenges when it comes to the analytical validation. Well, The way the manufacturers report on analytical sensitivity and instructions for use is not necessarily consistent. This isn't a criticism, it's an observation, and it rarely relates to an international unit or a standard. The other thing is that the WHO international standards are plasmids, so they're already, if you like, extracted. They represent circularized DNA, so they don't intrinsically approximate a matrix for extraction. So this is a slide which I think actually has been redacted somehow. I don't quite know what's happened, but never mind. So the international standards themselves are, as I say, plasmids. There are 7 that represent separate high-risk types. There are also 6 and 11. But because of their nature and conformation, their utility for evaluation is really limited to amplification and detection steps of the assay rather than actual extraction because, as I say, of their intrinsic nature. Oh, there you go. And this perhaps was brought to mind, this challenge, when we did endeavour to use them for an assessment of analytical sensitivity. And in terms of the care, given the nature and chemistry, particularly of this assay, it did struggle a bit, and we couldn't actually determine a clear limit of detection by probit analysis, and rather did a limiting dilution. So that was the challenge of using the international standards. But it does bring an opportunity, particularly when we're revising the protocol. And one is to have an analytical validation piece that has a broader scope than just limit of detection, and includes reproducibility, determination of analytical specificity, etc. But also perhaps to channel development into creating materials that are more representative of clinical samples. So you could do this by seeding the international plasmid standards into a context of epithelial cells and then using those to challenge the assays, or also develop HPV-containing constructs or cell lines that represent, as I say, again, a kind of cellular biospecimen, which ideally could then be linked to a traceable standard and international unit. And I think the creation, particularly of the latter one, has potential not just for PQ, but for other applications as well. And indeed, this is a slide that was shared to me by colleagues Rob and Emma at NIBS, so thanks to them. And what they've done, and I'm not going to labour this rather detailed slide, is that they have created transfected cells with viral integrants, which currently represent type 16, 18, and 31. And they do this by introducing a set of plasmids into a competent cell line. And then these can then be harvested and then used for, as I say, quality use. Now, they're available as research use only materials at the moment, and CE marking is planned for January 2021. So if people are interested, then I know the guys at NIBS would be very happy to engage with them. So moving away from the analytical piece and onto the challenges and opportunities with respect to the virologic evaluation, I guess the challenge, which is surmountable but certainly worth preparing for, is that if you're going to collect samples, then you ideally want to collect samples from an LMIC who are happy to engage with the process and are willing to undertake the non-trivial aspects of negotiating governance of collecting the samples, ensuring that the field work is performed in a way that you can collect the samples that will still align with the requirements of the downstream test in terms of timing, that logistics are covered, including sample dispatch and transit, which can sometimes be challenging, particularly with alcohol-containing cytology media. So surmountable challenges, but certainly worthwhile identifying a partner early on in the process that can support with this. And we were really advantaged by the fact we had a great collaboration with the team in the Coma in Malawi who helped with this aspect. This is my last slide, I think, or penultimate slide, but it was just to say that the reports on expert and care are available online, so you can look at these. And the virological evaluation for the future is, as Anne-Laure said, under review. It will still be based on the agreement of the candidate test with a validated comparator method, but the measure of success is going to be updated, and the power required to achieve this success as well is under consideration at the moment with the help and support of Mark Arvin. The other other aspect which is going to be reviewed is also, how we define our operational characteristics and ease of use too. So final slide, if people are interested in becoming a PQ site, then there is a system for articulating that interest. As Mario's mentioned and Natalie's mentioned, WHO elimination goals will require more HV tests, more high quality HV tests. So it's essential that these tests are fit for purpose in a variety of contexts. And while I would say that WHO PQ is, of course, a very, very important aspect of reassuring quality of assays, robust evaluation in a particular setting is still clearly important. So I think that is me, other than I want to thank the following folks for their support, not least the Prevention and Control Board organisers, Alex and the team, for giving me this opportunity and organising a virtual meeting so well. So thank you.